Hi everyone and welcome to the Learning Ladder. Today I thought I'd do my planning video. There might be a second part to this, I'm not sure, it depends how long this one takes. I have two main items that I use for my planning. So I have my project book, which is, this brand is Unipad, I've used different ones. I really like this. This is everything, it holds everything in. And then I have my more abbreviated, condensed version that I stick into my planner. This is the planner that I have used now for the second year running. The cover is just something I found online for free, and then the pages are what I just created myself in PowerPoint. Nothing exciting, but it works. So curriculum list, things that we're currently using, things that I see throughout the year and think, oh, maybe I'll make a note of that to check if it's something we might want to use in the future. I have my school calendar, which I highlight when we're in and when we're off. So we school for 39 weeks. The first thing I do before I do anything is figure out when we're going to school. So it's the 6 weeks on, 1 week off basis, generally speaking. Some months it might be 7 weeks here and there, 2 weeks off at Christmas, 2 weeks off at Easter. The rest of the time it's 1 week. So I do that first, and then I make a note officially in my holiday spread. I also have special event spread, field trip spread, all at the front. I haven't filled those out yet. And then here at a glance, there we go. And then straight into the monthly spread. So I did update this. I have done a flip through of this actual planner before, but I did update it because I changed all the headers. I wanted them to be different every month. So I have a note section, and then that's from my month at a glance. Every month has the same pages. So I have a month at a glance, and then I have my planning pages. Last year they were all at the back, which was really annoying, I found, having to flip through to the end every single time I wanted to find something. So now I moved them to the appropriate month. So they're my planning pages. So I have the subjects at the top, and then the days of the week down the side. So I have language arts, maths, science, history, geography, extras, crafts and field trips. For us, extras are art, music, baking, IT, language. So those come under our extras, and it's the same throughout. And I also have a monthly focus page, and I also have a notes. I also have a notes page as well, and it's the same throughout. As I said, the only thing that I changed was I updated the headers, because last year they were all the same, and this year I wanted them to all be different, just to make your planner a bit more exciting. If you're obviously using the planner an awful lot, it's nice if it's a little bit interesting to look at, I find, and not just the same every single month. There's December. Okay, so that's my planner. I do have at the back the unit study section, and it's here. I did leave that at the back. And then the other thing that I put in here every year is my Excel spreadsheet, and I'll talk about that at the end. So I've made a list of all the things that I think about when I'm planning, just so that the video isn't super long. I have just got a new puppy. She's 8 weeks old. She's over there, asleep. I'm not going to wake her up for the video, but if she wakes up, I'll show you her. She is absolutely gorgeous. Cavalier King Charles. We already have one already. He's almost 2. It's been interesting adding her into the mix. She's absolutely gorgeous. He's not sure, but I think that's to be expected. He's gradually getting a little bit better with her. I think it'll really help when she stops trying to bite him, because she's teething like crazy. So once that eases, I think they might be friends. I mean, I wouldn't want to be friends with someone who's biting my ears either, so I can't really blame him, but I think they're going to be really good friends. They've both got very similar personalities, so hopefully, very joyful and bubbly, so hopefully that'll work. Anyway, back to the point. So I've got my list so I don't go off track. See, it's working already. Okay, so the first thing I do before I'm doing anything is I read my planning books. Now I've done a video it was from 2017. I'll link it below if you want to see the books that I use when I'm doing my planning. But my two main books that I still continually use is the Well Trained Mind book, and I also use a national curriculum book, which is specific to the UK, and then I also use I can never remember the name, but I'll link it below. It's from preschool up to high school. It covers everything, so all your subjects, and it gives you a guide as to what children in schools would be using. It's American, but it doesn't matter because it's just very similar, and I have my national curriculum, which is the UK version, to compare, and to be honest, I haven't really found much discrepancies between the two anyway. So those are my planning books that I use. After that, I start thinking about curriculum. So I do a review of the year. Was I happy with everything? Was my daughter happy with everything? Is there anything I want to change? Are there any things that I want to focus on that isn't going to be in that curriculum? So I need to add on something. So those are all the kinds of things I do before I start thinking about what I want to buy. Then I check reviews, and YouTube is one of my #1 places to go to. I love it when people post reviews. So if you're someone who makes videos and posts reviews, thank you. I love seeing inside the books. It's really helpful. I check Amazon reviews as well, and look at samples and read a sample lesson to see if it would fit. So those are everything that I do with curriculum. So you don't end up buying something that is a waste of money and something you're not going to be able to use. Okay, then once I've got all my curriculum in, which is so exciting, I love doing all the unboxings, I pick a subject to start off with. So if you bear in mind, I've already decided when we're going to school, when we're going to start, when we're going to end, when we're going to take our breaks. That's all sorted out. I've got my curriculum, it's at home, and I'm going through it and doing my actual planning. So I pick a subject, whichever one off the top of my head, whichever one I want to pick first. This time it was language arts because I found that I had the most for language arts. So I pick a subject, go through all my resources, and when I say I go through my resources, I mean I go through my resources. I don't just glance through, I read every single chapter, go through everything that's required, the scope and sequence, absolutely everything. So I know that when I'm adding things in, it's reasonable to add certain things in, and I'm not going to pile on too much work. So I need a thorough understanding of my curriculum, and also to make tweaks as to, well, I'm not too keen on that, I'll change this, I'll add this project goes well with that, will coincide, cross-curricular, all those kind of things. So I start making my map, so my curriculum map, and I do that in my project book. Nothing fancy, and it's not actually visual at all, it's just basically me making loads of notes. Okay, but that's what I do. So once I've gone through all my books, I then go through everything that we already have. So when I say gone through all my books, I mean my curriculum. So next I go through everything we already have. So when I'm looking at activities and books to read aloud or readers, I go through everything we already have on the shelves so that I'm making the best use of my resources. I'm not purchasing something we've already got, which I have done once before, which was irritating, or purchasing things that aren't actually going to fit into the year. So once I've done all that, I'll make a list of anything else I need to purchase. Now, I do not add to my cart on Amazon, I make wish lists. And this is something I really strongly advise you to do, is to make a wish list, because then when we're shopping and we see all these Amazon suggestions, you end up adding it to your cart and it comes home and you think, oh, that's great. And then at the end of the year, you think, did I actually even use that book? So I don't do that, I make wish lists. Then what I can do is I can actually go back and read reviews on the suggested thing. I can go back and think about where it would fit into my scope and sequence and everything else. And that whole thing of instant gratification is not something that I have actually been a victim to. I have thought about it. If it's on my wish list for more than 2 weeks, then I definitely want it, because I do update and kick things out that I've decided not to purchase. Make wish lists. It's the best way to stick to your budget. You don't overbuy. You don't get sucked into all the extras. You actually think about it. Do you really want it? You make your purchase. I love my wish list. So then I'll go to make my wish list for anything else I need that I haven't already got. I also try to buy quite a few things used as well. We don't have a library that's of any use, basically, to homeschool. It's awful in terms of it has such a limited stock, so I do have to buy a lot of my books or get used. So I shop my sales and shop all my sales, and I also shop my favourite sites that offer discounted books, and then again make my wish list. So that's all done. So I've got my wish list out, I've got all my activities and books and everything else extra that I want to get for each subject. What do I do then? Okay, so then I make notes into my project planner, as I said. So I do a week by week basis of what I want to cover throughout the year. I know a lot of people don't like doing this because if something happens and you miss things and everything else, you get off track. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with switching up my plan, but I like to have a plan in place. If I have a plan in place, I can adapt my plan. If I don't have a plan in place, there's nothing to adapt. And I don't like that idea. I like to have a plan of my whole year. I know a lot of people don't do that. They like to do 6 weeks at a time or something along those lines. I prefer to map out my whole year And then if anything changes, I can just adjust my schedule, but I like to have that map out. And then throughout the year, not that I don't do any planning or anything like that, of course I still do, but I can focus on things that have come up. So for example, child-led learning, so she's suddenly expressed an interest in a certain topic or a subject, then I have the time to actually respond to that, because I'm not already bogged down with additional planning for the year. So that's why I prefer to do it for the whole year as well, and to just know what my budget is and to spread it out as well. You know, if I know that in a few weeks I'm going to need these certain books, then I can budget for that. Whereas if I'm not doing my planning until, you know, the week thereof or something along those lines, I don't know, necessarily won't have the money available to purchase the extra items. So if I do my whole year out in advance, then I know exactly when I'm going to need a certain amount of money to buy a certain curriculum or a certain book, a certain resource, go on a field trip. I just prefer it that way, each to their own. So then what I do then is I go through and I pick any activities that will complement the curriculum and also that my daughter will really enjoy doing. So and it's an actual piece of work that she can look back on. So things like writing a non-fiction report, doing an informative poster, doing a fairy tale map, all those kinds of things, project-based learning, basically all those types of things that she'll love to do, and then we can look back on in the future as well. I really like that. You know, to make learning more fun and make it come to life rather than it just being a workbook style. So I make a list of all those, and then I match them up to the weeks that I would like to do them in. So I photocopy everything, I make my own printables for anything that I need printables for, I bind everything, which I used to have to do out of house, but now I've got my own little binding machine, which is amazing. I'm so excited to have that, to bind everything. I get all my books ready and I write down the weeks in which we'll be doing those books to make sure that everything's in my project book. So at the start of the week when I'm doing my work boxes, I can get all the books out, put them onto our little bookshelf that we have for the schoolroom, so that everything's on display for that week for read alouds and readers and everything else, and then she can pick out the reader box which one she wants to read. I know that sounds really extreme, but I just find it really works, and we've been doing this system from the beginning. It's not something that I've suddenly implemented this year, so it's tried and tested for us, and you have to find what works for your family. But hopefully, you know, some of these suggestions might be worth trying. If not, then you've just wasted 13 minutes of your life. No, hopefully you'll pick up some tips, I don't know, or think, no, I don't want to do that, which is just as useful. Okay, so once all my printables and everything else are all done and everything else, I'll file them away ready to be used, and then I'll do my spreadsheet, which is what I mentioned is the last thing that I put into my binder, planner even. So the spreadsheet is something that it was actually new, so I started that last year. Everything else has been the same, but that was something new. Do you want a little guest visitor? Are you coming out? Hang on a second. Quick hello. I'm just going to take her out to go to the toilet and then she'll come back. Okay, so she's just finished. I was just going to say she's eating, but hang on a sec, she's coming back. Okay, while she finishes eating, I was talking about the spreadsheet. So what I did was I made a spreadsheet on Excel using a list of all the resources that we had in addition to our curriculum. So games, STEM games specifically, math games, and then just any other games that was educational. And I decided to put them all into a spreadsheet and then use a random generated function to automate the spreadsheet, and then produce a document where I've got my week 1 to 39 with a selection of games that's different every week for the subjects, so STEM, math, and then everything else. And I know you might think, well, why on earth would you do that? And I wanted to do it because I was doing work boxes, and I wanted to make sure that I was picking different activities every week to put into my work boxes or a workbox shelf. And this was it seemed like a really good idea at the time, and it was amazing. I love having that list. So from week 1 to 39, I know exactly what games to get out. It makes sure I'm making the best use of my resources. I'm not getting double the amount of games out that we don't need. I'm making sure I'm getting a full range of this skill, that skill, and I'm not having to think about it. It's done. I thought about it at the beginning of the year, and now it's done. So I'm definitely going to do that again, and I just think it makes the best use of your resources, and make sure, as I said, you're not pulling out the same game over and over. You're not forgetting about games that are in the back of your cupboard. And then obviously that's not the only thing I put out for her. anything that she wants she can get out too, but I just liked having that list ready. So on a Sunday night, well, I don't usually do it on a Sunday night, but if I was, then I'd just be able to go to the cupboard, get my work boxes done, get all my games out, and we'd be all set up for the week. So that's something that I'm really going to implement again this year because it was fantastic. So this is Jace. He is not a puppy. Well, he is. He's still a puppy. So he'll be 2 in August. And I wanted you to see the size difference because she is so tiny. I know he was obviously a lot smaller when he was a puppy, but I'm sure, I swear, she's smaller than he was. It's hard to, you look back at photos and they always look bigger in photos anyway. But anyway, this is a full-size Cavalier. So I'll see what, how big she ends up being. I think she's going to be smaller. Could be because she's a girl. It could be obviously different parents. So I'll just grab her now. I'm glad I did this at the end of the video and then you weren't bored if you don't like dogs. But I love dogs. Just make sure nothing's showing. What's that? What's this? Where's your tag? There it is. So her name is Quinn. She is 8 weeks old and she's in that bitey phase. No biting. Let's get your toy. So we've had quite a few puppies over the years. And so she is, I'm used to puppy training now, so if you want any tips on puppy training, let me know because I'm quite the pro. I did actually work with animals for a long time as well, so that does help. But she, as I said, is just slightly over 8 weeks according to her birth date, but she is positively tiny, absolutely stunning. There she is, little Quinn. Your debut on YouTube. Yes. Very particular, I don't like nipping, especially having young children, so she bites, we say no, and we offer an alternative. So here she is, little Quinn. So that's everything in my planning. If you want any future videos, or probably don't know, if you want any future videos, let me know. This is the second time I actually filmed this video. I do this all the time. I uploaded it on YouTube and then thought, that doesn't really help, it's useless. I'm not going to bother sharing. There's so many other people who probably do it and share better. But then someone else, one of my subscribers who's also a friend, said that they would like to see a planning video, how we do it. So I refilmed the video because we've now got Quinn and I thought that would make it a bit more interesting. Take care and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.